But Brandon, let's move on into our last topic before we make our picks. And this topic I've been waiting for. I've been excited for this one ever since we started the podcast, ever since you and I knew that we were going to talk about this. And we're going to look at a 2018 NFL draft topic, but we're looking at a certain player. And Baker Mayfield, this past weekend, tried to shake hands with Kansas. They wouldn't shake hands. He let it get to him. He might have grabbed his private region during the game and swore at the Kansas sideline. There's now reports that I've seen two things. On PTI today, I heard that, he's suspended for the game. I've seen on ESPN in the article that he will not start this weekend against West Virginia, but Lincoln Riley has not said if he will play. Then I saw in the article headline on the front page of ESPN, it said, Baker Mayfield won't start, will play versus West Virginia. So we don't know for sure if he is going to play. We know he's not going to start, but I want to ask you more so on the draft side of things, is how are these sideline antics going to affect, or will they affect, Baker Mayfield when it comes to draft profile and draft stock?
I don't think it's going to affect him at all.
Really?
I don't think it's
at all.
Not at all. Oh. Not one bit. Not one bit, because this is not a pattern of things that have happened with him on the sidelines and in these antics. He's not. This was one game where he was pissed off because the Kansas team couldn't be respectful. You go out there, you shake hands, and that's what you do. The fact that they wouldn't do it, it's pretty disrespectful, I think, in my opinion, and I would be pissed too. Maybe he should have handled it in a different way, and when I say maybe, he absolutely should have. But I think it's a good point to also bring up that Lincoln Riley brings up and in the press conference, is that these guys who are playing, not just Baker Mayfield, but all of them, they're still young men. They're not adults. They're getting there. Mm-hmm. They're getting there. They're not fully grown adults, out into the real world, but they're close. But not quite yet. Did you make mistakes in college?
Yes.
I made mistakes in college. All of you guys and girls made mistakes in college. You just didn't do it on a national stage. He did. But I still think that it's not going to affect him because, one, it's not something that he went out of his way to do something to Kansas to then be the one to start it and instigate it and everything like that. If you want to go through everything that's happened with Baker Mayfield, if you want to go through the fact of his DUI, was it an arrest or a DUI pullover? I know that he was pulled over for a DUI.
He was arrested because what happened with that incident was, while the cop was talking to him, he had the great idea of, I'm a FBS quarterback, I can outrun this guy, and went to outrun the cop and got speared into the cement wall.
All right, I was pretty sure that's what happened. So a DUI arrest, then you have what he did at Oklahoma State, which truly I loved. And then 3, now you have this on the sidelines. Those things to me, that doesn't, the DUI, I would be worried about and just make sure that that's not happening again. That's not a pattern, that's not a problem. And then number 2 would be, as long as you're not pulling this type of antics, there's no pattern. There's no pattern with any sideline antics from him. There's this game. There's this game against Kansas. And was it good to see? No, that's not what you want to see. But is it going to happen all the time? My guess, my answer would be no, it's not. Because it hasn't happened multiple times before. I don't think it's going to affect him on people's draft boards because he's still a competitor. He's still a guy that goes out there and plays well, and that's what teams need him to do. They need him to come and play well every single game. They also do need him to be a leader, and that's what he is here on this Oklahoma team. He's looked at and he's viewed as a leader, and he is a leader. And as we've seen in our country, sometimes leaders screw up. Sometimes they don't always do the best thing, the right thing. that you should do. But we're not perfect. And him coming out and writing a statement, putting it on social media, understanding that he's wrong. The way he reacted was stupid, childish, terrible. He's embarrassed by it. He should be. He should be. But I think the fact that you're going to, people are going to say, well, of course he had to admit to it. He had the pressure. It was on, national TV, blah, 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 on ESPN that he did it. I get that too. But the fact that you recognize it, you say it's a huge mistake, a terrible mistake, something that you won't do, that's not something that you want to be known for. You did it. You respond to it. You learn from it. You grow from it. You move on. You don't do it again. And if you cannot do it again, you're going to be good. But the minute that you do something like that again, you have antics like that, and you start that pattern, that's when I would get nervous. But Ricky, to this point, I see no pattern. I see an incident. A bad incident, but an incident. You put it in the rearview mirror. You move on. If he can do that, I don't see him moving.
Before I say what I'm going to say, I want to disclaimer this. I don't know Baker Mayfield. I've never talked to Baker Mayfield in person. However, what I saw just in this one incident, I'm not even going to use the DUI. I'm not going to use the lapse in judgments that we've seen before. However, those can play into this a little bit. What I saw this past week was a guy who you can be on the other side of, should Kansas have shook hands? Yes, that's what sportsmanship is. But guess what? They didn't have to. How many times have we seen matchups where the teams just hate each other and it's like, I don't want to shake your hand. I despise you. And Kansas, they're a team that, you got to look at what's going on with them too. Everyone hates to lose no matter who you are. And that's all they have done. So that's just boiling over at this point. But I'm not here to defend them. What I saw was a young man who is a redshirt senior, which NFL scouts, they're going to see that and go, you should be more mature than people who are younger than you. They expect seniors and redshirt seniors to carry themselves differently because you've been through 4 years of college. Did I make mistakes in college? Yes. Most of those mistakes came my first 2 years, maybe my third year. By senior year, I pretty much had my act together because I'm like, oh, shoot, if I don't, then I'm not going to get a job after college and I can screw up my life. That's where I was going with mine. Is everyone like that? No, not at all. Some people don't get it until after college. But the thing is, if he plays any other position than the one he did, I would be on your side. I would say, you know what? Doesn't matter. Give him a pass. But because he's a quarterback, the quarterback position is the one position where some people like a fiery quarterback. Most NFL teams have shown they don't want a quarterback who is going to let things get under their skin. And all I'm going to do is just run through the division leaders right now in the NFL. The Patriots. Does Tom Brady let anything get under his skin? No, but he's the GOAT. So I guess we'll push him aside like we usually do Alabama. Big Ben. Does usually off the field issues, but does he let anything get under his skin? Yes and no.
He did in terms of that press conference when he gave the answer of, well, I guess I just don't have it anymore, huh? So
that's why yes and no.
Yes.
The AFC South, Blake Bortles doesn't have to let anything get under his skin because no one treats him as a real quarterback. But I'll go through the rest of the quarterbacks in the AFC South because it's interesting. Marcus Mariota, does he let anything under his skin? No. Doesn't seem like it. Deshaun Watson as a rookie? No. Andrew Luck. Well, if you're asking Jim Irsay, it's all in his head with the injury.
But also, Andrew Luck, you can't talk to him because he's in Europe.
Because he's in Europe. But moving on. AFC West, Alex Smith. Does he let anything get under his skin? Not really. Carson Wentz this year. Even the second-place team in Dak Prescott. Not really. You look at Teddy Bridgewater with the Vikings, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford. You look at Russell Wilson. You look at Jared Goff this year. My point is teams don't want hotheads at quarterback. And I'm not saying that, oh, you did this, you're a hothead. What I'm saying is NFL scouts are going to see that, and that's what they think of you. It only takes a second for an NFL scout to get an image of you that could ruin your draft stock. Because does Baker Mayfield have the tools to be a first-round talent in the NFL draft? Absolutely. But it's stuff like this that is going to hurt him to where I feel like if he keeps this up and this lingers with him, he will not be a first-round quarterback and he will drop. Could that be good for him? Maybe. Could it not? We don't know. We're not at the draft yet. But when it comes to NFL teams, they want their quarterbacks to not let things get under their skin. Two in particular that I would say are guys that let things get under their skin. The first of which is minor. He's a sophomore, so we still don't know how this is going to go, is Jameis Winston. But the bigger one is, look at Cam Newton. Cam Newton is the one guy every time we talk about him, he still hasn't let the Super Bowl go. He still hasn't let what got under his skin go. And that has affected him. I know the team right now for the Panthers are doing well, but it comes down to the goal that every NFL team has, win the Super Bowl. And I feel like if a GM or someone in the war room that's making that decision, whether it be the GM, the owner, the head coach, they might look at that and go, we don't need this kid. We'll move on. And that's where it could hurt him in the draft.
I'll just continue to disagree with you because Jameis Winston, and we were just talking about this the other day, Jameis Winston now, when he was in college, accusation of sexual assault, stole crab legs, and he's still a top 2 pick in the NFL. Is he not? Was he not?
But here's the thing.
No. Answer the fucking question.
He was.
No, yes, thank you.
But I'll ask you this. Does Baker Mayfield have equal talent to Jameis Winston?
I'm not saying that he does, but what I'm saying, and the point that you're kind of asking is, do you think that his draft stock will fall? Well, no, because of exactly what Jameis Winston went through when he was in college, the things that were thrown up against him adversity-wise in college, and still he ended up being a top 2 pick. So it doesn't matter sometimes for teams. They don't care. You know, whether it's a top 2... If he had those types of things against him and he's still a top 2 pick, Baker Mayfield will be... If he's not going to be a top 2 pick, he'll be fine. He doesn't have those same types of things. He didn't steal anything. He has a charge of arrest for DUI, so there's still something there. He did something wrong. He has now done this. He gloated a bit after the win against Ohio State, which you're beating Ohio State. I'd be gloating too. I don't think that it's so major where you look at it and you go, well, that's how this kid's going to be. He can't turn his act around. We always forget that these are still human beings just like you and me, trying to get through life, trying to do things. You expect them, people expect them to be absolutely perfect and robotic. You did something wrong. Well, no shit. They do things wrong sometimes. That doesn't mean that you can just say that they're going to be like that. Johnny Manziel. Let's look at Johnny Manziel. He was Mr., show me the money on the field, all this kind of stuff. That was something that was a pattern that just continued to go on. People could have, if someone would have said, yeah, Johnny Manziel, he may be a problem. I don't think anyone was going to go, you know what? You're absolutely wrong. He's not going to be a problem. He's going to be the best saint-like quarterback there could be. You would want to check that person's head because that's not what Johnny Manziel ended up being like. And he had his demons. But everyone does. Everyone has that. And just because you show that one time, it doesn't mean that that's exactly how you're going to be all the time. That got under his skin. Yes, it did. Does he need to be better about having a thicker skin? Yes, he does. Guess what? Do you need to learn these things and grow and have situations that help you grow? You do. Is that one of them? Yes. That's going to be. That's going to be his example, his situation that he went through. That's the learning curve for him. Baker, you can't be like that. When I listened and watched an interview that Scott Van Pelt had with Baker Mayfield, I think it was either back in 2016 or 2015, the kid was a stand-up class act. The way that he was talking, the way that he was handling himself in that interview, that's the Baker Mayfield I know is there. That's the Baker Mayfield that I believe who he truly is. You have things like that, blow-ups like that. Do we know people? And now I want to bring this over into the everyday Joe Schmo life. Do we know people at work who we know or have friends who we know? They're great people. They're awesome. And then all of a sudden something happens and you're not realizing, oh my gosh, they're reacting like this. And you would have never thought that would have happened or come from them. We all have it. We all have it.
Define it a little better because I'm trying to process it in my mind.
So you have a friend, never gets angry, never gets upset, nothing. But let's say you're in the Christmas season, you're out with them shopping, and it's just completely busy. They've had let's say they've had a long day, they've been busy, they've been stressed, and something happens and they just snap and they're like, what the hell? Why is this not happening? I need to get this done now. They're either snapping on you or they're snapping on somebody else, and you're like, whoa, this I'm kind of taken aback because this has never happened, from you. That's what I'm saying is that there's people out there, just like Baker Mayfield, who they're good people, they're class acts, they do handle themselves well, but something that just throws them, and boom, that's how they react. Well, that's what I'm saying. So you can't just put one action on a kid and say, well, that's how he's going to be, and he's going to drop on people's draft boards. I just don't think so. There's too much talent there, and that's what scouts are going to say. They're going to say, okay, so he didn't handle himself all that great in this situation, but gosh damn, he just lit them up all game long. That's what they're going to talk about.
A lot of things. So I got a lot of things that I want to hit at. First off, I understand what you're saying about the blow-up analogy. I don't think it fits this.
How does it not? Explain.
I don't think it fits at 110% because just because, if he would have blown up on a reporter or blown up in an interview, then I would say it fits. But this wasn't something to where it was like, wow, where did we see this from Baker Mayfield? We have seen things, like you mentioned, the Oklahoma State game, like the Ohio State game, and I didn't even want to bring that one up because that was the only one that I was looking at going, whatever, he stuck a flag in the middle of the field. Whatever. But this one, the whole thing that I think of is how far he went with it this one. Swearing at the other sideline, grabbing his balls, kind of making that gesture. I know he apologized for it, and I'm not saying that, he did this, he's automatically chastised, out of the league. There have been a lot of people that have been worse. I mean, I would rather that happen to Joe Mixon or Greg Hardy or those fools, not Baker Mayfield. But the thing I want to go back to is when you were talking about Jameis Winston and when it comes to Baker Mayfield. Winston had a lot of baggage coming in, but the difference between Winston and Mayfield is if Baker Mayfield was a top 2 talent, like people were saying it's going to be number 1 and number 2 for sure, like the Winston draft. The Winston draft, every single mock draft had Mariota and Winston, and some of them flipped, some of them kept them exactly the same. If Mayfield was in that boat, I would be right along with you. This isn't going to affect them. Top 2 talent, team, whatever team's up there is not going to care. I fit this into more of the Johnny Manziel mold of not the off-the-field things because that was substance abuse and Baker Mayfield doesn't have that. But when you go back to that Manziel draft, Manziel did drop a little bit. And we were sitting in the first round going, okay, is Jerry Jones going to take him? He had a phone call with Jerry Jones. Are you going to take me? Are you going to take me? apparently didn't know where he was going to go at that point. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that is similar with Baker Mayfield. Has the talent in college football, has the talent to be an NFL quarterback, but if some teams that need quarterbacks look at it and go, great, nice kid, he's got the skills, but I'm just not ready to make a commitment into the most valuable position on my team when I don't know if he's going to have a lapse in judgment and if it's going to be something minor or if it's going to be something major. And that's the big issue here is it's not an attack on his character. It's not an attack because he's got the skills to be a starter in the NFL. The thing is, the whole lapse of judgment is when you're an NFL quarterback, you were saying they expect them to be robots. Well, yeah, they do, especially NFL quarterbacks, because you're the leader of this team and you are the most important part of an NFL team. Like we have talked before on this podcast, we've talked about it on the Onside Kick podcast of crappy teams that have no weapons around can be carried by an amazing quarterback. And just having that amazing quarterback elevates your team. But teams aren't going to necessarily want to take that stab if they feel like there might be an incident here and there might be a lapse in judgment. That's the thing going forward. However, good thing is he still has the combine coming up with interviews, which I hope he would take the interviews and be able to talk to scouts from NFL teams.
Well, I just have to go back to your point of, Jameis Winston. If you're looking at a top two, let's say a top two, pick, and you're looking at a guy like him for that, and you say no, it's fine. No, it doesn't matter. I would completely disagree with you and be on the other side. I think more so for a top two pick is where you really have to look and see if they're going to be my franchise quarterback. That's where I really have to look and see, hey, if they have a lot of baggage, I don't want them. I don't want them because I need this person to be my franchise quarterback.
With you.
You're more willing to do it if you're not in the top 5 picks. Most likely, you probably won't need a quarterback now. So that's why teams, I think, could get someone, let's say in a 10 to 17, or I don't know why I said 10 to 17, 10 to 20 or wherever like that, or beyond, where you've got a quarterback right now that you're going with, that you want to have Baker Mayfield come, you want to bring him in, you want to draft him, and he can sit for a year, 2 years, however long it may be, and then you get a feel for how the guy really is. That's where I'm like, he had a couple of things that happened. That's fine. That's fine. I'm not as worried. But if you're looking for a guy, franchise guy in a top 2 or let's say top 5 pick, that's where I'm more so looking into, okay, he's got the skills. Does he have the character to be able to become our franchise quarterback, be the number 1 leader on this team, and really put all that on his shoulders and carry this team, and as a 22, 23-year-old, be the guy and know he's the guy, but be able to handle it. And then when you also look at quarterbacks and you say robots, they do expect that. Well, let me tell you, I don't want a robot. If I'm an owner, if I'm a GM, I don't want a robot. Give me someone who's got some fire in him. Give me someone who's got some passion in him. Phillip Rivers, do I think he's the best quarterback in the league? No, but he's got passion. He'll tell you when you did a bad job. He'll tell you when you did a good job, and he will be fiery with the other team. I mean, I remember exchanges with him and Jay Cutler. When Jay Cutler was on the Broncos, and exchanges on the field. They look at each other, basically tell each other to F off. I mean, I like that fire, that passion. You care about what you're doing. You care about your team. You care about your players. I like that. I don't necessarily like it in the way that Baker Mayfield did it, but I like that he has some fire, that he's not okay with Kansas. I don't care that you're 0-9. I'm not the reason you're 0-9. You're the reason you're 0-9. Don't be upset with us because we're good. We're probably going to trounce you. We didn't do anything to you. have some class, show some respect. We were out there. We were ready to shake your hands. That's where, that would piss me off too. It would piss me off too. If you're out there, you're supposedly you're all supposed to be captains, and with the captain role, you're obviously a leader on the football team. Not one of those guys was the leader. Not one of those guys for Kansas should be standing their ass out there.
Well, this isn't, and I don't want to get this onto Kansas because should they have shaken hands? Like I said,
no. Here, let me say that it is partially on Kansas. If they never did it, Baker Mayfield never does what he does.
That is horseshit to me. And the reason why is you can't control what other people are going to do. What should have happened, and I don't want to sound like the bearer of being the judgment here, but what Baker Mayfield should have done was, you don't want to shake my hand, fine. I'm going to beat your ass, but keep that internally, not necessarily act like he did. Don't let it get to you like it did. Just let it show through your play. And the thing that, like with Phillip Rivers, the thing that I know that some people would say when you're like, oh, I like that fiery guy, how successful have the Chargers been since 2004? Yeah, they've gone to two AFC championships, but the Chargers have been a team in Phillip Rivers' time. Not saying it's his fault, though.
But it has nothing to do with that you can be fiery and not necessarily your team be successful. To be honest with you, we may not see Tom Brady be fiery every single time on the field, but you've seen multiple times when he comes over and he is getting his guys going on the sidelines.
That's what I was going to get to.
He's getting the fans excited on the sidelines.
Yep.
So you should have fire. If you've got none, I'm a little worried.
Well, no, that's what I was going to bring up. And I know that, like I mentioned, people are going to be like, well, he's the GOAT. You can't really compare him to the GOAT. But yeah, you can. You can learn things from Tom Brady because Tom Brady, does he have fire? Does he play with fire? Yeah. But he's not going to be the one sitting there screaming over to the other sideline. He'll be the one to fire up his own players and worry about his team. That's what, and yet again, like going back to what you said, Baker Mayfield, young guy, still has time to learn. The question is, can he use this as a teachable moment and move forward from it? That's going to be the most important part of it because right now I could see him talent-wise being what I think it was Bill Polian or someone said that he would be a perfect fit with the Browns because he wouldn't care that it's the Browns because all he wants to do is win. He could be a guy to turn around a team like the Browns, or he can be a guy like Johnny Manziel to where it's had the talent, was a great college quarterback, but fizzled out. That's where I see right now that's the high and the low. Where's he going to go from this and use it as a teachable moment? That's what this all sits at and where we're at right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's something that he knows, he realizes he's done something wrong. He did something wrong. He shouldn't have done it. And I think that it's really nice knowing that you clearly saw and can see that and if you haven't watched the press conference of Lincoln Riley talking about his quarterback, you definitely should watch it because 30 seconds went by. Lincoln Riley couldn't talk because he was getting choked up because he likes Baker Mayfield that much. He cares that much about his quarterback, and he feels for his quarterback. I think that him supporting Baker Mayfield as much as he's supporting him right now, I think that that's really important, and that's really big for Baker Mayfield moving forward.
Well, and this is where I want you guys to let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section about anything we did talk about Baker Mayfield.